I am so excited to be here and think that we are on together, which is really to help companies and individuals thrive in today's high-risk world. Digital transformation is not a new idea. It's not a new concept. It's been around a while. And I said to him, okay, so I'm going to come and talk about something that's been around a while, but every time we turn around, there's some new challenge or some new opportunity that it brings with it. And it also brings a lot of drama. And he said, oh, you mean like teenagers? So now you know kind of what age my kids are at home. But this is definitely true with digital transformation. As you guys know, it sort of took hold a number of years ago and started to really get some momentum when companies started adopting these broad-scale business systems or business applications. And mostly they were implemented as major IT initiatives and kind of kept separate from the business. But what happened and why that was so important is because up to that time we were consuming a lot of technology that enabled us to do a better job, but for the first time it actually changed the way we worked. And that was extremely compelling. And now what's happened and why it gives us sort of these mixed emotions, the same term years later, is because now, just at blistering speed, any buyer anywhere in the world can adopt some of these new innovations and technologies and not only change the way their organizations work, but also it can completely innovate business models, which is fantastic. I'm missing a screen down here, so hopefully we can get that squared away, otherwise I'm out of my mouth. So just to kind of step back, the things that are happening and adding new levels of personalization and engagement and interaction and rolling out brand new customer success models, which is fantastic. Other things that companies are doing is they're rolling out new infrastructure and new technology, taking more and more advantage of cloud and AI and machine learning and, of course, IoT. They're also enabling a global workforce and really helping their global workforces interact in a more frictionless way with great controls and real-time onboarding and offboarding of different levels of talent. And also extending this whole level of business transaction in a much more fluid way to their ecosystem. And then, of course, the thing that's becoming more and more apparent is data is taking on more and more meaning. And data is being used as a significant business asset to deliver additional value back to customers, to empower the workforce, or even to inspire stakeholders. So data is definitely the new currency, and I think that was put up here earlier. The thing is that different organizations are at different levels of maturity, and they're starting in different places with a little bit different of an approach, and that's it's an exciting time for us as professionals. Some are taking on wholesale changes, completely leapfrogging their peers, and certainly India is doing that in areas that were just discussed here around the digital ID and digital wallet as just great examples. Or nation states becoming digital cities and starting from the ground up. And it's seemingly happening overnight. Other companies or organizations are taking a much more incremental approach and adding on to what they already have or building it out as new technologies and also new funding models become available for them. Here in India, we mentioned some examples of some new innovations taking place, but some of these are also things that have been around a while. So the Aadhaar digital identity program, I think, has been around about 10 years, but there's more and more phases, and that will continue to keep pace as that grows and builds out. So in addition to reducing fraud and some of the threats that go along with that kind of program. It's also just inspiring and enabling brand new ways that customers can adopt new life-changing types of technology into their lives. The digital payments has really taken off, of course, here and is very popular in being able to drive mass adoption of next-generation digital wallets. As the government and the National Payments Council really seeks to turn India into a cashless economy, which is super exciting. There's also been a rise in the social-based commerce with nearly 300 million users. And that is significant because over 80% of businesses in India are small and local businesses. So it's really having a great impact on those businesses. Which brings up a really good point. In the social environment that we're in, we really need to rely on references and the community to give that rich information, which really means that this notion of trust is playing out in the digital world. And it's really going to drive our future forward. And it's an important thing to call out. The modern digital economy is built on this foundation of trust. And I have to say, from my perspective, it's becoming increasingly fragile. And that's something I think that we're all starting to really understand. From cyber attacks, data exposure, to things like job displacement and shrinking attention spans, and even destabilization of our social fabric as communities, as nations, and as technology is definitely a force for progress, but it can also be a source of distrust. And here's the paradox. You saw that chart earlier. The more and more an organization goes digital, huge asset. But at the same time, that asset can also become its biggest liability in terms of delivering on trust or breaking that trust. So that is just, to me, such an interesting concept of how companies are going to really manage their data strategies and make sure that they are have the right system set up and the right process set up to enable trust with that data. So the new why is paramount. We must enable trust in this new digital world, which really brings us to this week and what we here all as security and risk professionals are here to do. Again, as the level of digitization goes up, so does the level of risk, and not by a little, but a lot. This is no longer a conversation about which tools are the coolest thing or what technologies we can apply to which problems. It's about mitigating risk at scale. At the scale, scope, and speed of impact, again, that we were just starting to scratch the surface on and understand. Today, a startup can compete with a 30-year-old company almost overnight, which is awesome and so exciting. With that powerful scale, though, there also comes an immense amount of risk if the ambitions of the company for growth aren't matched with their ability to manage risk that goes along with that growth. Also, organizations have a really complex web of ecosystem and partners and create third-party, fourth-party, and they also may have a whole ecosystem that they know nothing about. And they run the risk of exposure by more and more APIs, microsensor technology and IoT, different code bases, which span cultures, geographies, and data sets. So, in an effort to drive much more accountability, of course, the regulators are initiating these sweeping regulations that require a much more continuous and real-time way of looking at compliance versus a one-and-done type of approach. And they're ever-changing as these nations continue to evolve. They're getting much more complex. Here in India, there's an upcoming personal data protection bill, which will demand certain different levels of data residency and different data residency requirements, which is going to impact businesses here for sure, but it's going to impact businesses large global businesses all around the world that depend on India to make their business models work. When it comes to digital, everything is interconnected. But the speed of impact, to me, is what's really, really breathtaking. And this could be a good thing, or this could be a bad thing. Any idea or incident can go around the globe in seconds. So for marketing, for instance, a viral marketing campaign, that can be a really good thing. But if you have a service interruption just before a really critical quarterly earnings call, you can see that could be a problem. Or worse, misinformation on a situation that is otherwise manageable just spins completely out of control and turns into a major brand challenge. Or again, a stock plunge, maybe right on the eve of an important acquisition. With the benefits of the new paradigm, go along with it the responsibility of understanding how to manage risk. And just as digital changes the way we work, it also means we need to change how we manage risk. But how much do we really need to change it? So just adding to a couple of the charts that were put up here about the study we did, and you can find it on our website, little plug, if you want to download it. Of course, digital transformation is well underway. People understand the concept of digital risk, for sure. But what is just amazing is the broad-reaching position on how much exponentially it changes a company's risk profile. And that is going to continue. So as the transformations continue, the risk is going to persist. This means we need a much more disciplined approach to managing risk. And it needs to happen as we're taking on these transformation initiatives, because both are here to stay. Digital risk management is a practice that can really enable us to be proactive, and every progressive company right now is forming a strategy to do that. And that strategy is inclusive of their cybersecurity program as well. Of course, risk needs to be managed, not avoided, because taking risks is all part of doing great business and taking these opportunities on as great challenges and really going for growth and doing new things. So that's all really important. Okay, so where do we need to go? Now, imagine a future state where we can enable innovation and agility, instead of us as risk and security practitioners being the department of no, which sometimes we're known for. It's a much more interesting business case when we can show how we're supporting the innovations and transformations of our companies. Risk and security groups have a unified view of risk to the business, and it's put in context in a way where everybody can make the right decisions for the business, not a point-in-time decision overall. And digital risk management is always on. As I mentioned, it's proactive. It allows us to hunt, to anticipate, and to change. And we need to do that in order to make adjustments as fast as the threat actors do. And certainly, we would hope at least as fast as the regulators do. It uses more modern methods and more modern technology, such as AI, IoT, and cloud. And in addition, it relies on things like automation and data analytics to really help our teams make the most out of their time and make the most out of the resources available. It creates a lot more efficiencies. And it extends to the business ecosystem to allow this frictionless workflow across our supply chain, where we can make adjustments in our interactions based on resource changes or geopolitical moves. The point is that digital moves at a fundamentally different pace, and so we need to change that. We need to change how we're managing risk and to fundamentally enable trust for our businesses. At RSA, we continue to partner with our customers to help them find the best ways to manage digital risk. Because it isn't something you buy, at least not yet. The historical challenge is security and risk teams and practitioners and even leaders really struggle to get attention for their important initiatives. Because security projects are often seen as hygiene-oriented or difficult to prove ROI and efficacy. So it doesn't exactly get people excited. So what we're seeing now is that when risk and security teams can couple their programs and their proposals in with some major initiatives going on for digital transformation, such as adopting robotics, say, for example, in a new manufacturing process, or creating a compelling interactive customer experience, or moving more and more to the cloud. These types of initiatives, we've outlined 8 here that we think are critically important. Not only do the transformation initiatives succeed and do better, but also the risk and security programs see more success and traction. So this is where the security requirements and the business requirements are driven, drive the strategy and drive the tactics. What's also interesting is if you look across different industries, and these are just examples, this is a partial data set based on some preliminary results. You can see some major critical risk areas stand out, like cybersecurity, workforce transformation, for instance, are 2 of the big ones, and of course data privacy, because that impacts everybody. But as you go deeper down into the prioritization, it changes and shifts. So the good news is, it's great job security for all of us, but there's a catch. Risk and cybersecurity teams need to work together to identify, assess, and treat cyber risk across functions, across all aspects of the organization, not just within the SOC, not just within IT, and not just within the legal department. And these functions have grown up over time as individual silos. And it's a multidimensional challenge. Those silos, what they do is they create these blind spots. So different parts of the organization can't get a full picture or don't have the proper context to make the right decision or to understand what's really important. As new innovation is adopted, these groups must really combine forces as the new initiative gets folded into the regular way the business operates. And on this path, RSA helps with this approach, and we call this approach business-driven security. So let me just kind of talk a little bit about RSA and what we would like to help everybody with and the approach that we're taking. First, we help you look holistically across all of these functions to help you manage risk, fraud, security, and all of these programs together individually, and also with an eye on the future of how you can get more leverage across them as your programs mature. We meet you where you are in your journey. We understand that every organization starts at a different place, maybe in a different critical risk area. And we want to provide you with a flexible path forward for how to achieve your goals at a pace that's right for your business. Also, creating this path means we want to give you choice. We're not going to force you to do cloud or do on-premise or do traditional, or maybe you want to do a mix of both. That choice is really up to you and your strategy. We offer a really rich integration network, over 1,000 integrations strong, and a massive user and customer community that you can tap into to really understand best practices in the areas of identity, risk, security, and fraud, which augments our own experience over the last 3 decades. You must build trust in several ways. Your customers must trust you with your data. Your business must trust the data that your digital initiatives are producing. So you need to trust a vendor who can help you manage risk and take you into the future. And this is a bit what Infosys did. And you're going to hear from Infosys a little bit more this week. A phenomenal customer, a global enterprise customer of ours with over 200,000 employees in 50 different countries. And they were faced with 3 major challenges, and as they were taking on their 2 big digital initiatives around workforce transformation and cloud. They wanted to have security, visibility, and control across their entire environment. They wanted to manage identity risk at scale across this large workforce, and they wanted to maintain continuous compliance in a complex regulatory landscape. So what we did is we helped them unify their authentication platform with a unified strategy for risk-based identity management. Then we helped them modernize and scale their security operations effort with our evolved SIEM platform, RSA Net Witness. And now they can detect advanced threats across AWS, Azure, and 365. And this is a massive scale. Then we injected business context into their integrated risk management program to get broader alignment and continuity across the company. Infosys is a great example of one of our customers that's enabling trust around the world. So what does a digitally transformed, trust-enabled world look like? It's a world where we can unshackle innovation. We can move at the speed of thought, and it can drive incredible humanistic and economic gains. A trust-enabled world is a future we all want to live in. It's the why we do what we do. A company started in Singapore makes portable water filtration systems, for instance, that helps with rural or disaster-hit areas. A Jakarta company uses seaweed to replace plastic. And a company here in India provides 1 gigawatt of power from wind farms. If you ever find yourself daunted by the what or the how of this incredible path and journey that we're on together, take a moment to reflect on the why and find inspiration there. Thank you.